What's happening, guys? So hopefully the microphone is working today. Today what we are going to be doing is we are changing the front sprocket. So the standard front sprocket I believe is a 14 tooth and we're going up to a 15th tooth. So basically having one tooth up on the front is equivalent to going down by around 2 or 3 teeth on the back. So it's better for top speed and it's also better for cruising speed. So say you're cruising around 60 miles per hour, 50, 60, it's a lot easier and you're on lower revs than what you would be if you ended up going down teeth in the bottom. A little bit weird, but basically instead of going down at the back by so many, you could just go up by one. It's a lot easier to change as well. What we're going to do is, obviously, if you've not seen the video before, I have got a different chain on this from standard, which is a heavy duty DID Gold chain on there. The rear sprocket is standard. Like I said, we're just changing the front sprocket. I have gone over some of this before in a previous video, but what I'll go through is obviously what I can do now. So these bolts, these are just covered in here, but the first thing you want to do is, if you have a paddock stand, use a paddock stand. What I would do before putting it onto a paddock stand and messing around with a chain and loosening all the back end up is take your front cover off, take your sprocket cover off, take your regulator off and get to that and see if you can loosen it that way first before we put it onto a paddock stand. What we're going to do, put back to the side. We've got these two nuts here, take these two off and then you got your regulator behind it. You take those off with the shims off as well because there's 2 shims holding it on. Move your regulator to the side and then you've got 2 more bolts holding on the sprocket cover behind this. So you've basically got a fake sprocket cover, which is just a regulator cover. Then you've got the regulator, you take the regulator off, and then you've got an actual sprocket cover, sprocket guard, you take that off. So what we're going to do is take these 2 covers off here, and then I'll be able to get to the bolts, and then take that guard off. So once I took the covers off, they're not 10mm, they're 8mm. So I've got an 8mm, so I'm going to get a socket, put them on, and take that guard off. So place a little ratchet on, loosen it on this side again, loosen it a little bit, do it by hand. So again, behind this you will actually have the regulator and a couple of shims. Didn't know this until the first time I took it off. I think it's a weird place to have your regulator, especially where you've got water and grime. So that's one bolt, take that off, and then this is what usually is your sprocket cover. On this bike it's actually the regulator cover. You've just heard that drop, that is one of your shims. So when I take this one off here, you can see on there, I see it on my camera angle, I've actually got the shim, but it's the same for this side, which goes through here, and then you've got your shim which goes on top of that, and then behind that is your regulator. Very weird way to put it, but what you want to do is move that out of the way, and then you've got 2 bolts here. You want to take them 2 off, so I'll take them off now. Crack them off, just using an extender bar just to get to the bottom. It's a little bit of an awkward position, especially with that wire as well. That bolt should come out now. Let's say you've got 2 holding these, so you've got 2 holding your regulator cover on, and that obviously holds your regulator in place as well. And then you've got 2 holding your actual sprocket cover on, and your wire and your sprocket cover. So your sprocket cover, you kind of have to twist it, and then there you go. You've got your front sprocket, obviously your chain going around it, and you've got your sprocket nut which needs to come off. You've also got this, if you notice. Now this is basically a pressure plate. What you want to do is knock this side back to be flat, so then you can actually get it off with a socket. Alright, so my partner's got her foot on the brake now. You can either use a breaker bar, or if you've got an impact like I have, it makes it a lot easier. Put it on place, and the bolt comes off. So that's one bolt off. You want to then get the plate here, pull that off. That gives you access to the front sprocket. So now what we want to do is lift the back wheel off, and we can adjust the chain so there's enough free play so we can actually move this front sprocket off. So the bike is lifted up. Now what I want to do is get to the other side and just loosen up the axle. So the rear axle is actually 30, so I'm going to actually have to use my breaker bar for this. I reckon I've got enough strength in this actually. Yep. So just loosening the rear axle. You don't need to actually take the wheel off for this. So I'll loosen the rear axle. And then what you want to do, before I want to get some slack in the chain, we're going to have to loosen this off and loosen this one off. And we'll move the back wheel forwards, create enough slack on the front chain that we can take the chain off of the sprocket, if that makes sense. Get this back to here. Now this chain, it's not a continuous chain. I can take this pin off. So what I want to do is I want to knock this up and take that pin off if I can. Right, so I'm just going to take this split link off. So let's lift it off, pull the pin out of the back. It's a very messy job this. And then what we can do is we can just drop the chain, pull this back, just so it has enough play there. Right, so now we've got enough slackness to be able to move the regulator out of the way. Move this back, the wheel back, just enough to get the chain off. Not too far because you don't want to lose it, but just enough just to take the chain off. We can just drop that to the side. Then here we have obviously the front sprocket. So it's a case of just lifting it straight off. And then we've got a replacement sprocket, which is here. Now there's no particular side to put this on. Sometimes there is a different angle, but what I like to do is always put the writing forward. Again, this has got holes in the design. There's no real thing to that. So what you want to do is line it up, make sure it goes onto the splines correctly. So I know that is on there now, and what I will do before putting obviously the locking nut on, so I'm just going to put the chain back onto the sprocket, Just move it forwards, watch your fingers because it can get trapped at times. So I'm just going to pull that through now, make sure it guides through correctly, and then I will relink the chain at the back. Then when I line this back up to how it was, which is there, get the back of the split link, push this back on top of it, and then obviously you've got your split pin again, put this back onto here. What you want to do is obviously knock it on. You can either use a screwdriver and a hammer, or you can just use a pair of pliers. And it's on nice and tight. It's on there now. So now that the chain is obviously back on and the sprocket is on correctly, move your regulator out of the way again, and obviously you've got this little locking plate. People call it different stuff. You want to put that back on to whichever angle you think is better for you to get to. Make sure it's on the splines. You want to get your nut, two different sides. There's this side and this side. The flat face wants to face you. The one with the obviously cut out wants to go forwards. Get it lined up a little bit, and then you can use your impact and put it back on again, which I will do now. Obviously, you're going to want to torque this up to which I believe is 45 Newton meters of torque, but do that when obviously your back brake's on. So all I'm going to do is grab the back wheel, put some pressure on this. That is on there enough. You can put that locking plate back on if you want now, properly like pave it over, but what I would do is adjust all the chain and everything first, and then do that after. And once it's on the ground, you can torque it to the right setting, which I believe is 45 Newton meters. That is now on there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the wheel backwards. Move the tools out of the way. We'll move the wheel backwards, just literally get a good pull. That's just took a bit of play up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the alignment tool. I'm going to put that on here as well. And I'm going to adjust this to where I think it needs to be, so there's a bit of play. Now it does actually say on here how much play you should have, and it's between 18 to 25 millimeters of play of a slackness. Now that is when you sat on the bike. What I would do is have a look, see where we're looking with a free play while I'm off the bike. To be fair, that is in line there. That is in line. What's a free play like? Way too much. What I'm going to do is tighten this up to go out this way. You can see as I was tightening that, the chain was going up. I'm just going to make sure that this side matches it. So one more face turn there. That looks about right on this side. Make sure it's straight, which it pretty much is. Just need to just adjust this one a little bit more. Have a look down the middle. That to me is lined up. No, that's locked up. Lock this side back up on here. When I get on the bike, I want to see what it is, because it's obviously, you need to do your slackness when you're on the bike, not off the bike. So make sure my side stands down for starters. Turn it left. So when I sit on the bike now, how much play have we got in the chain? That is about right. So again, we've got between 1 to 2 centimeters, or if you want to say between 15 to 20 mil. That's right. So what I'm going to do now is put it back on the side stand, and then tighten the back. I'm not on the paddock stand anymore. So what I'm going to do is get my socket, which again is the 30 mil socket on the rear axle, then tighten that up to the correct torque settings. So like I said, the chain's not too slack, not too tight, just spot on. The adjustment nuts on the back are obviously they're nice and snugged up. I want to put the front sprocket and make sure that is on torque right, so I'm obviously going to get my partner just to press the back brake again. So I put the 27 mil, put this on, we just want to tighten it up to the correct torque settings. And all we've got to do now is the plate on here, just bend that back over so it locks on. So now the front sprocket is back on, holding nut is on, chains on, everything's all torqued up. Now we just need to put the sprocket cover back on, which can be a bit of a nightmare with this cable. But you move your regulator out of the way and the sprocket cover goes on at an angle. So you've got to put this on at an angle, and it is very awkward to do. The last time I did this, that was very easy. So you literally put it on in an angle behind that, make sure that's got enough room, because your regulator is going to go over the top of that, and then your cover's going to go on your regulator. But now that's on there, so all we're going to do, get a bolt which goes through the top of that, which we took off earlier, which is 8 mil, one on the top, tighten that by hand, and then again there's one on the bottom. Get that lined up, and again, just so you don't cross thread them, just do it by hand so you can feel that it's threaded on correctly. It's very easy to cross thread these little bolts. So now I know that's nipped up and not cross threading. Get my ratchet, hand tighten them. And then this bit is the finicky bit where you've got your spacers coming through. So what you want to do is you've got your cover for your regulator, put one bolt through there, put the other bolt through the other side, get your spacer, get this lined up, and what I would do is try and line it up so it goes on your regulator at the same time, and then line this up to your bolts, which is easier said than done. but do it right, they should go straight into the bolt holes. Once you've got them lined up, again, just do it by hand. Weigh out the ratchet first to see you're not cross-threading. But once you're happy with the arm, they're not cross-threaded, just get your ratchet and just giving them up a little nip. That is nicely snugged on. Your top bolts are nicely snugged on as well. So that is your sprocket, your front sprocket changed, the chain done, delinking the chain, putting the chain back on, and then obviously adjusting it to your new sprockets. And then all I'm going to do now is take my alignment tool off, and I'm finished. So my hands are covered in grease now. But basically the whole reason for this, I explained a little bit at the start, but I'll explain properly now. So when you're cruising around 50-60 miles per hour, if you've got the normal sprocket kit on there, then around 50 to 60 you can be using quite high revs, especially in 6th gear, which if there's a way of doing it so you don't have to rev as much and you get a bit more top end speed, the easiest way to do it is by changing the front sprocket. Now you could have changed the rear sprocket, but to change the rear sprocket you need to go down by 2 teeth if you want to get more top end speed and then better cruising speed. You'd have to go down by 2 teeth on the rear sprocket, and you'd have to take the rear wheel off. You'd have to take the sprocket off, which is 5 nuts I believe. There's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, there's 5 nuts on there. So that's 5 nuts you've got to take off, make sure they're not rounded. That's 5 nuts you've got to make sure they're not cross-threaded. It's 5 nuts you've got to make sure it torques properly. And obviously you've got to take your rear wheel off, your axle off, take your chain off, all that stuff. Whereas if you're doing the front sprocket, there's just some bolts to remove. You don't have to take your wheel off. As you can see, you just obviously adjusted your wheel forwards, and it's an easier thing to do. So by going up 1 sprocket on the front, by going up, it is equivalent of going down 2 to 3 on the rear. So that's better for your top end speed. Like I said, it's a lot easier to be cruising around 50-60 miles per hour, which to be fair, on A roads and B roads, it's what you're doing. On the country lanes, it's usually a national speed limit, which is 60 miles per hour. Obviously the bike can go up a lot faster. Like I've had 74 out of it already. Obviously doing this, people say that you can gain up to like 78 miles per hour, but it's not just for top end speed, it's for cruising speed, which is a lot better for it. That's the reason why I've done this, so it's not revving the absolute bollocks off. So if you want a more low end torque, you can either go down a tooth on the front, or you can go up on the rear by 2 teeth. So again, if you're going for lower end torque, a lot of people change the rear sprocket and to go up by 2, which I believe is a 48 tooth. The standard on this is 46 on the rear and 14 on the front. But as you've just seen me changing that, it's a lot easier to change the front sprocket. So if you want more torque, go down by 1. If you want more top end speed, go up by 1. If you want to change the rear sprockets, then you can do what you want on that. But yeah, that is how to change the front sprocket, how to obviously split the chain, how to adjust the chain, and how to add a bit more top end speed to the bike. Hope you like the video, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe. If you get any questions at all about the bike, any questions about what I've done to it, let me know. All I'm going to do now is add my little golden bits back onto the nuts, and then I'm done. Ready for the commute in the morning. Peace.